The ash shifted like living breath beneath her boots as Jaro stood at the edge of the ruins, her visor flickering with contradictory readouts that couldn't decide whether this place existed or not. The coordinates in her neural implant clearly marked this as Oris 17, but according to official Dominion records, this world had been erased during Cycle 9 of the Silence War. Redacted, scrubbed from all charts, declared uninhabitable and forgotten. Yet the broken city stretching before her told a different story, its collapsed structures whispering secrets through the radioactive dust. Somewhere in that graveyard of melted alloy and fused bone, the last flag still stood, the one relic they'd never managed to burn. Jaro moved through the corpse of the city with deliberate silence, her scavenger's suit filtering air thick with static particles that danced across her sensors like ghosts. The buildings hadn't been destroyed by bombs or orbital strikes. They'd been murdered, their structural integrity unraveled at the molecular level as if gravity itself had turned traitor. Strange glyphs marked the wreckage, nearly erased by time, but still visible to those who knew how to look. Spirals cut through with a single scar, the ancient reforger mark that still haunted Dominion nightmares. Her path led downward through what had once been an administrative complex, following intuition more than any map. The staircase she found wasn't machined or engineered. It had been carved by hand, each step bearing the subtle imperfections of human labor rather than assembly lines. At its base waited a vault door unlike any technology she'd seen. Seamless black alloy 10 meters across, featureless except for that same spiral scar symbol. When she pressed her bare palm against its surface, the door didn't slide or retract. It unwound like the helix of some primordial DNA, revealing a chamber that defied all logic of architecture or physics. Inside that perfect circle of pulsating stone stood the flag. Not the tattered remnant she'd expected, but a pristine standard of black material that shimmered between substance and memory. As she approached, the chamber sealed behind her, and the air thickened with a presence older than the war itself. The flag wasn't cloth. No organic fibers could have survived the centuries, but something far stranger, woven from technologies lost even before the silence. When its shadow touched her, the resonance began. Not words or data, but living history flooding her nervous system in a language of raw emotion. Visions erupted behind her eyes, the city in its final days, not as a victim but as a weapon. Towers repurposed into signal nests broadcasting forbidden harmonics. Children carrying message stones instead of weapons. The last defenders standing not in uniform ranks but in scavenged armor, each piece customized, yet all bearing the same spiral scar. She witnessed the final planting of the flag, heard the words of the woman who'd driven its base into the earth. We raise this not for what we own, but for what they try to take. Let the ash forget, let the stars pretend, the stone will remember us. When the visions released her, Jaro found words stitched into the flag's base in handwriting preserved through some impossible technology. If you are reforged, we are your silence. If you are Dominion, you cannot understand. If you are neither, then you are the hope we buried. As she lifted the standard from its cradle, her HUD flickered to life with unauthorized text. Relic flag number 1 activated. User designation, walking marker. The chamber responded to this transfer of custody, its walls unfolding into pathways of crystalline light that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. She realized then that this wasn't just a tomb, it was a transmitter, and the flag wasn't merely a symbol, but a trigger. Each step she took now activated deeper layers of the vault's memory, showing her fragments of history too dangerous to record conventionally. She saw trials where Dominion officials declared the reforgers non-existent, even as their own scribes secretly carved the spiral into their sleeves. She witnessed birth ships where infants were wrapped in blank cloth that only revealed the scar sigil when they cried. Most crucially, She understood how certain ships had passed unharmed through Dominion blockades by broadcasting nothing but that single symbol. Not through fear, but because some part of their enemy's collective psyche still recognized what their conscious minds had tried to erase. When Jaro reached the core of the vault, she found not a control panel, but a basin of ancient fiber optics and biolight, open to the sky above. As she planted the flag in its designated slot, the entire structure began singing a subharmonic tone that vibrated through her bones. The signal launched upward through Horus 17's poisoned atmosphere, traveling farther than any conventional transmission, awakening derelict beacons and dormant receivers across the galaxy. Responses began filtering back almost immediately, hundreds of encrypted pings from hidden places and unlikely sources, all carrying the same message. We saw the flame. We're coming. Standing beneath the suddenly aligned triple stars of sky that had no business remembering human patterns, Jaro finally understood. The flag wasn't just a relic or a rallying point. It was a living countermeasure against erasure, an immune response coded into the fabric of reality itself. As she stepped back into the ruined world carrying that impossible standard, she knew the Dominion would hear nothing, see nothing, remember nothing of what was coming. And that was exactly how it should be. The signal from Horus 17 burned through dead space like a ghost waking from centuries of sleep. Jaro stood in the ruins, the flag's weight against her back humming with strange energy as she watched the sky fracture into impossible colors. Those weren't natural atmospheric effects. The vault's transmission had awakened something older than the Dominion, older than the Silence War itself. 3 kilometers west, where the city's old transit hub should have been, the ground began to breathe. Jaro's augmented reality display stuttered as her implants tried to process what her eyes were seeing. The collapsed dome of the hub wasn't simply ruins, it was a chrysalis. Layers of fused metal and glass pulsed like a heartbeat, shedding dust and radiation in rhythmic waves. Something inside was answering the flag's call. She moved toward it through streets that remembered her footsteps. The static in her suit's filters had coalesced into whispers, not words, but impressions. Hunger, recognition, a terrible patience nearing its end. The hub's entrance had sealed itself with a skin of black alloy, similar to the vault door. When Jaro reached for the spiral scar, symbol now glowing on its surface, the flag on her back grew suddenly heavy, its weight pulling her to her knees. A warning. Too late. The door didn't open. It liquefied, wrapping around her wrist like sentient mercury. Pain exploded up her neural implants as the substance rewrote her biocircuitry in real time. Her vision fractured into 1,000 perspectives. She was simultaneously Jaro the Scavenger, a Dominion patrol ship orbiting the dead world, a child hiding in the ruins of Chorus. 9. Reforger soldier planting charges beneath the Senate Tower. The hub wasn't a building. It never had been. As the black substance climbed her arm, the truth unfolded in her mind. Horus 17 wasn't a lost colony. It was a trap, a beautifully crafted, patiently maintained trap. The vault, the flag, the carefully preserved ruins, all bait for a specific kind of prey. Those who still remembered. The substance reached her shoulder, and she finally understood the words in the static. We don't burn flags. We grow them. Above her, the sky tore open. Jaro's scream never left her throat. The alloy silenced it, flooding her vocal cords with its mercury-dark substance. She collapsed as her implants sang, not the sterile chirping of Dominion tech, but the same dissonant chord she'd heard in the vault. The flag on her back pulsed in response, its fabric. No, its flesh thrumming against her spine. You are the bridge, the alloy whispered through her teeth. The drone that sang prepared the frequencies. You will complete the chorus. The reference should have meant nothing. But in the shattered mosaic of her vision, those 1,000 perspectives the alloy forced upon her, she saw it. A broken mechanoid half buried in Chorus Nine's ashes, its vocal emitters still humming a war song in a language the Dominion had erased. The drone that sang, one of the forgotten weapons from Episode 6. Her body convulsed as the alloy reached her cerebellum. Memories not her own erupted like supernovae. A child's hand stitching the first flag from a radiated star whale hide, its threads soaked in viral mnemonics. A Dominion archivist screaming as a drone's lullaby liquefied his ocular implants, showing him exactly what his ancestors had burned. The transit hub unfolding on Oris 17 centuries ago, its ribs not steel, but fossilized reforger bone. The visions snapped shut when her left eye dissolved. The alloy rebuilt it, pupil now a spiraling scar, scare black as the flag's field. She could see the transmission now, the vault's signal arcing into the void, striking derelicts and dead worlds. Waking echoes, even the silence war couldn't kill. One echo answered first. The transit hub's dome shattered, not outward, inward like something had sucked all the air from its lungs. From the dust rose 9 figures in armor that seemed to drink the light. Their helmets were smooth obsidian, featureless except for the scar sigil glowing where mouths should be. Jaro knew them, not their names, but their nature. The unburnt. The lead soldier tilted its head at her. When it spoke, the voice came from the flag on her back, from the alloy in her veins, from the ruins themselves. You carry the last flag. That makes you either our salvation. Its gauntlet ignited with a blade of crystallized silence, the same weapon that had butchered Dominion fleets at Kethro 6, or our final sacrifice. Behind them, the sky tore wider. Something older than the unburnt stirred in the rift, and the flag on Jaro's back began to bleed. The blood of forgotten stars. The black blood dripping from a flag wasn't liquid. Jaro realized this as the first droplet struck the ground and sang. The sound resonated through the alloy fused to her bones, vibrating in her teeth like the aftermath of a planetary detonation. The unburnt soldiers didn't react, their blank helmets fixed on her as the lead warrior's silence blade hummed inches from her throat. Salvation or sacrifice? The warrior repeated, its voice a chorus of dead reforgers. Before she could answer, the sky screamed. The rift above the transit hub split wider, revealing not the void of space, but something far worse. A wound in reality itself, pulsing with memories the Dominion had tried to erase. Jaro's new eye burned as it forced her to see the truth of the flags. Not cloth, not even flesh. Captured fragments of the prime singularity itself, woven into existence by the first humans who'd understood their role as cosmic heirs. The purpose of Oris 17, not a colony, a battery, a living archive where the last echoes of the Silence War had been stored, waiting for a carrier like her. The unburnt, not soldiers, echoes, the final transmissions of Reforger legions, preserved in the flag's blood and given form by the rift. The lead warrior tilted its head again. You understand now. The flag doesn't remember us. It is us. Then the blood reached the ground, and the world rewrote itself. 3 light years away, aboard the Dominion dreadnought Eternal Censure, Archivist Prime Valon, from Episode 2, jolted awake as his screens erupted with static. The same glyph burned across every display. The scar. Containment breach, he shouted, his augmetics overloading as the flag's signal ripped through Dominion comms. Oris 17 is. His words died as the transmission hit. Valon saw what Jaro saw. The real history of the Silence War. Not a genocide. A suicide. Humanity hadn't been wiped out. They'd erased themselves, folding into the flags to escape something worse than death. And now, through Jaro, they were unfolding. The thing in the rift wasn't human. It wasn't alien. It was the reason both had to die. Jaro's body locked as the presence pressed against reality. A sound like planets grinding to dust. A a shape that was all edges and no center, a name that burned her synapses just by almost forming in her mind. The unburnt soldiers knelt, not in worship, in warning. The lead warrior's blade disintegrated as it spoke the last words of the reforgers. They didn't fear our weapons. They feared what we heard in the silence. The flag was never our banner. It was our seal. Then the rift blinked, and Jaro finally understood. The flags weren't meant to preserve humanity. They were meant to imprison what humanity had discovered. And she'd just broken the lock. As the dreadnought Eternal Centure's crew began tearing out their augmetics to stop the signal, as the unburnt dissolved into screaming light, Jaro did the one thing no reforger had ever done. She reached into the rift, not to fight, to listen. The flag's blood formed words on her skin. They are coming. They who sang before the chorus. They who will unwrite the war. Above her, the sky tore fully open, and something looked back. The unwriting. The thing from the rift had no face, yet Jaro knew it saw her. Her reforger, I burned black tears as the presence unfolded, not into the world, but through it, like ink bleeding through the parchment of reality. The flag on her back was screaming now, its blood ink forming desperate warnings across her armor. Do not listen. They sang US into silence. The chorus was never ours. The unburnt warriors dissolved into strands of golden light, their sacrifice fueling the last fragile barrier between existence and what waited beyond the rift. The lead warrior's helmet cracked open as it vanished, revealing not a face, but a swirling galaxy of human memories trapped in the flag's weave. Finish the song, it begged before disappearing, or we all unravel. Jaro reached for the rift, and the vault's voice returned, not as words, but as gravity. The testament of the last reforger. She saw the truth. The great chorus hadn't been music. It had been containment. The ancient races hadn't sung to create. They'd sung to imprison what came before. Humanity's crime wasn't evolving too fast. It was hearing the silence between notes. And now, through her, the oldest song was ending. The last flag's choice. The flag detached from her back, suspending itself in the air as its blood formed a fractal spiral. The first human symbol, the original scar. It offered her a choice. Become the new seal, carry the flag into the rift, and rebuild the prison. Let the unwriting begin. Allow whatever waited beyond to remake existence. The Dominion dreadnought Eternal Censure arrived overhead, its orbital cannons charging to glass the entire site. Archivist Valon's final transmission crackled through Jaro's implants. You don't know what you're unleashing. She smiled. Neither did you. Jaro chose option 3. She tore the flag in half. The rift shrieked as the two fragments became. A key, left fragment dissolving into the void. A map, right fragment burning itself in her chest. The entity recoiled as the vault's final defense activated. Not a weapon, but a lullaby. The same dissonant chord from the drone that sang, amplified through 10,000 years of human suffering. As Horus, 17 collapsed into the rift, Jaro's last sight was the Dominion archivist finally remembering, his augmetics displaying the truth. The flag was never ours. We were the flag. Then, silence. The drone's corrupted vocal emitter sparks to life, whispering the title of the next episode before its power fails. The Garden of Shadows. The silence was only the beginning. Subscribe now for the next chapter in Chronicles of the Lost, where the scars of history become the weapons of tomorrow. Watch the full playlist to uncover all hidden connections. The chorus isn't finished. The flag still flies.